First story. Both partners having infidelity. Any experience? Trying to reconcile after wife's 9-month affair, and my own intermittent cheating with sex workers over the long term. It all came out about 3 months ago. So I guess I'm looking for advice for anyone that has had both parties cheat in a relationship. First of all, I'm not proud, or feeling like I'm any better than my wife. Unfortunately, both actions don't cancel the other out. We both want to heal and have learned the error of our ways. I discovered her cheating a few months ago. It was emotional sexual, but she dropped it completely as soon as I found out. She has done everything you would want to try fix it. I know she still loves me, and the affair partner was just a reaction to a lot of issues that existed in our relationship. He wasn't particularly important to her, just someone that made her feel desired and wanted, something I have to admit I didn't do for a few years. Not that it's my fault, but I accept my part in making her vulnerable to cheat. After I found out, in the name of laying a foundation of trust, I came clean about my own infidelity. Over the course of about 8 years, I intermittently went to sex workers, not because anything was lacking sexually in the marriage, but because I have unresolved sexual abuse issues. No excuse, and it was shitty of me. More than shitty. We've both been, of course, hurt by each other, and we are going through the process of healing. There has been a roller coaster of emotions and feelings, as I'm sure many of you are aware. Personally, my sexual jealousy goes through the roof, and it's hard to control the anger. Less and less, thankfully, but I still have daily intrusive thoughts. I'm also hurt by the emotional side, but that doesn't seem to bring any rage. For her part, she is understandably incredibly hurt, and has expressed lots of anger and insecurity. I'm not looking for judgment about either of us. I know we were both shitty. We have a 5-year-old child, and now my wife is pregnant with our second. Definitely both my children, by the way. Right now there is plenty of love between us, and the revelation of the infidelities has brought a lot of honesty, passion, and closeness that had been missing for a few years. Of course, there is also a lot of resentment, and the pregnancy is an added layer of difficulty. Can anyone relate to any of this? We both want to heal, but there's just a lot of hurt, but also a lot of positive feelings. Me personally, I haven't forgiven, but I can see that at some point I might be able to. Any thoughts or advice welcome. This is the hardest time I've ever had in my life. I also accept I probably deserve that. I'm by no means a victim. Update. Dealing with sexual jealousy. Has anyone any advice for overcoming sexual jealousy? Obviously there are other difficult aspects, but particularly sexual jealousy is what is consistently boiling my blood. I've been with my WW 10 years. We have a kid, and she is now just pregnant with her. Is definitely mine. Second. I discovered 3 months ago. My WW insists the sex was not better with AP, and has gone to great lengths to assure me of that. I do believe her, but I'm a fairly paranoid person, so every so often I just lose it, and I'm certain they were having dynamite sex that she just couldn't resist. I imagine he is the world's greatest lover and was just irresistible. She says, and it makes sense, that mostly she just wanted to feel wanted and desired, which is what the AP was providing. She says the sex was nothing special, but just part of the feeling wanted. I can admit my part in not making her feel wanted, desired, and a severe lack of affection. Part of why I never suspected was that we had regular sex throughout the whole 9-month affair, although not as fiery, loving, or passionate as it used to be. Not to be crude, but I made her orgasm regularly. She swears blind the affair partner never did that, and her exact words were his foreplay was horrible. She says it was just that he made her feel wanted and desired by saying compliments and expressing his desire for her with sweet talk. I believe it, but then of course my paranoid mind imagines he was absolutely incredible in bed. She says he really wasn't anything special in any way, and the sex was fairly boring, more just someone she knew was safe and was willing, that could give her the emotional feeling she missed. Are there any wayward females that could see that this makes any sense? The jealousy takes over though, and I get pissed off and interrogate her about sexual aspects. Could she just be lying and he was an unreal lover? Update. Triggers always harder doing anything out of routine. Will they fade? 3 months since D-Day. I had a positive week, not really getting triggered, being able to be close to my WW with minimal intrusive thoughts, passionate and intimate sex. Felt almost over the sexual jealousy I've been struggling with. Getting up, dropping kid to school, going to work, coming home. The daily routine. I'm getting used to the triggers in this routine and mostly in a small bubble. I've been able to dampen and even just forget the triggers in this routine. Went out tonight, just the two of us, into the city for dinner, and immediately was dealing with all sorts of triggers I don't normally need to try manage. I could barely speak to my wife, just ate the food with minimal chat. Mostly was trying not to be triggered by almost everything making me think of the affair. Was just trying to hold it together without getting angry and getting into a pointless questioning session. By the end, on the way home, just wasn't even talking. My safe bubble that had been created all week just burst, and I'm right back to wondering how the fuck this is even going to work. It didn't help getting home and seeing some social media stories, including AP on her IG, through another connected friend. My own fault. Having open access to her social media accounts is a blessing and a curse. I've said nothing and just gone to sleep in the kids' room, continuing minimal chat. I'm sure she knows something is up, but I am just sick of getting nowhere by talking about it. Also sick of just the sudden feelings of hate that can arise from those conversations and triggers. Does this ever end? Is my life now just one big exercise in cognitive behavioral therapy, gradually allowing the million triggers in the world to fade away through gradual exposure in different situations? Update. How do you guys feel about friends of cheaters that knew, but didn't try to discourage them too much? My WW had a friend that knew about the affair, met AP and everything. I don't hold it against her for not telling me. I didn't know her well and it wasn't her place. However, recently I've been thinking what a shit friend she must be, knowing my wife was cheating, but not discouraging her. All I know is she told my wife she didn't agree with it. I had contacted this friend to ask for information, like did she ever talk about issues in our relationship. Apparently they never spoke about the affair or issues in our marriage. What kind of shallow friendship is that? Knowing there's an affair but never addressing it? Surely a proper friend would have properly asked her WTF she was doing, potentially ruining her marriage and family? What are your thoughts on these type of people that knew about it, but didn't make a huge effort to intervene, and sort of enabled a cheater? Update. Why am I struggling more? Both partners cheated. I will preface this by saying I know I am no better than my spouse. I take no moral high ground whatsoever. Both me and my partner have cheated on each other, just in different ways. She this last year had a 9-month sexual and emotional affair with another man. The same man she also had a ONS with about 8 years ago. I intermittently visited sex workers over the course of about 9 years, sometimes with very long periods in between. Neither of us knew anything about the other until about 3 months ago, when I accidentally discovered her affair. In the name of laying a foundation of honesty, I confessed my own infidelity. I know neither party is better or worse than the other, but I seem to be outwardly struggling much more than my wife. We are reconciling, and it has improved massively. So much honesty was needed. We both want to be with each other, there is so much love there. But why could it be she doesn't seem as messed up as me? Outwardly my emotional state has been a total roller coaster. For her it has been a bit, but mainly in reaction to me. Mostly she keeps her feelings inside and never initiates conversation about my infidelity. Mostly I've had to open the conversation because I'm afraid she is rug sweeping and just bottling up her reaction. I know there are multiple factors to this, but just curious for insights. Update. I feel so incredibly sad today. Anyone else just feel a crushing sadness from time to time about the affair? It's 3 months since I found out, and today I'm just overwhelmed with a deep sadness that has washed over me for what my WW gave up and risked to be with another man for 9 months of cheap, shallow excitement. It still makes me feel literally ill in my stomach thinking of how pathetic it was. I was looking at photos of early in the relationship. Everything was so hopeful. I just wanted to share that. More detail is available in other posts. I'm not innocent, but fucking hell, I feel so low today. I woke up again in the middle of the night after a dream about the affair with my adrenaline pumping. I lay there and for about 5 minutes I just felt so hopeless that suicide seemed like a good option to escape just for a short minute. It was a scary place to be, but I'll never do that to my children. I thought this roller coaster was slowing down. Update. Any advice for when you feel triggered and want to lash out and enter conflict? So I am about 3 months out from D-Day. Triggers are becoming less but still present, and definitely at least a few times a day. Mostly I can stifle them early, but other times it takes quite long for the anger and annoyance to calm down. Occasionally they still get the better of me. It's those times when I suddenly feel justified in interrogating and berating my partner that I want to move on from. They aren't benefiting me or the are that I want to take part in and be successful with. It doesn't serve me anymore regardless of whether my partner deserves that hostile treatment or not. I can see the value early on in that behavior, but I feel it's time to progress from it. Does anyone have any advice of things they did, or mental approaches to help dampen those angry, jealous, and betrayed feelings that want to lash out? I read a great comment about how hurt people hurt others and to try look at my partner from that viewpoint. It helps, because I love her, and I know something is really not right with her to be able to do what she did. Update. Any WP having trouble facing the pain and hurt they have caused? I am both a WP and a BP. Long story short, I had been giving my wife a really hard time for her affair, showing regular anger and complete contempt. After discovering her affair, I had admitted my own infidelity with sex workers intermittently over the course of years. Essentially, I realized I had been projecting my disgust with myself onto her. All those time with sex workers was buried so deep, I was able to pack away my feelings of regret, remorse, and disgust right in the same place even after admitting what I had done. For several months I kind of suppressed the feelings, but it all came out over the weekend, and I pretty much broke down in shame and remorse. It has been a significant realization in our recovery. Anyway, it has really helped to keep the healing going, and for me to finally feel more empathy for my wife. Of course what she did was wrong, but I had no right to be getting so self-righteous and contemptuous towards her. Anyway, just wondering if anyone else has experienced this difficulty or witnessed it, with a WP not being able to face the negative and difficult feelings of their actions towards their spouse, or have they seen those feelings expressed in dysfunctional ways such as me projecting onto my wife? Update. Thoughts about APs. Wondering from WPs, are they usually better? I still struggle with feeling less than the AP. Just feel not as good, in pretty much every way, even though I don't have much evidence for that. Just read an opinion of them not being special, that they were just available and willing, that they are just low-hanging fruit that was there at a time of weakness. This makes sense to me. But I wonder from WPs, particularly from any females, were the APs worth it? Were they that irresistible? Update. Delayed rage towards AP. Can anyone else relate? It's been almost 5 months since D-Day. I am a BS and WS. More details in previous posts if you're interested. The first 3-4 months most difficult feelings were towards my spouse. I had negative feelings towards AP but mostly saw him as not fully responsible. I communicated early with him after D-Day and mostly just wanted information, so remained calm and non-abusive so he'd feel safe to communicate. As time has gone on and I've become less angry at my spouse, and more empathetic and understanding of her position, it has gone the other way with how I think about and feel towards AP. Piecing together and seeing how he subtly played the situation to suit him and get all he wanted makes me so angry and spiteful towards him. When I realize those things, I express that to my spouse, so she can see what a slimy piece of shit he is, and that he didn't really care about her. Unfortunately, I think it just makes her feel guilty, and she thinks the anger is directed at her, so she gets angry. Remember, I am also a WS, so it's justified. She is if she thinks I'm just trying to make her feel bad, which I'm not. I just want her to understand he was a scumbag. Anyway, can anyone relate to delayed rage and hate for the AP? Update. Why do I still feel like I haven't got the full truth? I'm a BS plus WS. I have been as upfront as possible about my infidelity. It's 5 months since D-Day. I still have the nagging feeling I'm not getting the full truth. I think I know most things, but I still feel like elements have been excluded, or occasionally paranoid there were possibly whole other partners or ONS I don't know about. Anyone have this feeling? I don't really have any evidence for this. My WS has been pretty good in terms of helping to R so far. There was a bit of trickle truth initially, but it mostly seems like all the major points are outlined, and plenty of the minor too. Still, I have this nagging feeling. Can anyone relate? Update. Anyone else struggling over the Christmas period? I'm finding the holiday period really difficult. It's 5 months since D-Day for both of us. There are so many triggers. Having to spend time around family after being in our bubble of trying to reconcile just makes it all so fresh. I feel so ashamed trying to be around family. Ashamed about myself, ashamed about my wife. It has really made wounds raw again. Will every Christmas be like this now? Trying to just make it nice for my kid. Personally, just trying to take it each day at a time and not expect anything. Failed today, made a remark that was unnecessary. My wife got angry understandably. Triggers will be triggers though. Duck my life. Update. Spiraled again. Just can't believe fully what I'm being told. It's been almost 6 months since D-Day of a 9-month affair. I still don't believe the details I'm being told. What I'm being told. Wasn't that attracted to him. Didn't see him as special. Sex was only okay. Never had orgasms. I'm the only one that makes her orgasm. Only wanted to feel desired and wanted and used him for that. My sexual jealousy is through the roof. Just in case this comes across as a pity party, I'm also a WS, just differently, with sex workers here and there over the years. I'm not innocent and I don't want pity or your judgment either. I just feel like I'm being lied to. I'm not being told how much she enjoyed or was into him. I feel like it is all totally minimized just to make it easier for me to swallow. I just want the unedited painful truth, that's all. That's fucking all. Duck my life. Duck me anyway, I deserve this. Update. First fit of rage in weeks after discovering a small lie. It's almost 6 months post D-Day. My WW had a 9-month affair. I visited sex workers here and there over the course of about 9 years. I'm not looking for pity. Both parties have major issues. We agreed on total truth after my WW gave me trickle truth for a while. I know I have laid out everything honestly, but I have had my doubts if she was. Things had been going really well. We had gotten so close again, and I was feeling almost normal again. Yesterday she revealed some information about when she had bought AP a birthday present of clothes. Essentially before she said he just awkwardly accepted the gifts and that was the end of it. Just last night she now says how he tried them on in front of her. I specifically asked before if that had happened and she said no. I totally lost it, not because of what happened, but because of the lie. Now I doubt everything again. I'll feel like I'll have to go through everything again to detect more small lies. I was so angry to feel back at square one. She swore now she's saying everything and not holding back, so I asked again for information about the sex. She was more open than ever and loads of small details were added. It's great that she was open, but today I'm back feeling so insecure and like I don't know the full story. just anxious all day with intrusive and runaway thoughts, not being able to be comfortable. I have a million questions I want to ask again. I was just starting to feel some security again. I hate this so much, I'm just so drained. I don't have the energy to have to go through it all again to feel safe. She says she has told the truth, but now I'm certain there's loads she never said. I'm quite sure all of the major points are true, but details have been softened and omitted. Still fucking raging about it again today, but tried not to direct it at her. Can anyone relate? Update. Anyone else have difficulty feeling the gravity of their actions due to compartmentalizing it all? I know it's horrendous what I did. I visited sex workers intermittently over the course of about 9 years. I compartmentalized it all really hard. In small windows I deeply feel how disgusting and fucked up what I did was. But it's like I've trained my mind to block out all the negative feelings about it for so long that sort of keeps happening. My remorse, guilt, and shame seem to burst through for short periods, and then get locked away where they always did for years. Then I sort of feel blank about it for a while until the next window. Any advice to be able to stay with those feelings? Update. Dark and violent thoughts towards AP. Can anyone relate? Anyone else feel pure hatred for the AP? It's 5 months out from D-Day. I've gone through lots of emotion with my wife over the 9-month PAI affair. Through massive anger, sadness, love, despair, desperation, and everything in between. As time goes on though, and I have more understanding for my wife as we work through all the reasons why it happened, my hatred towards the AP grows every passing week. It's like I realize more and more what an absolute motherfucker he was. Initially I had been civil to him to get as much information as I could. I was desperate for the truth. But now I just have spiteful and hateful thoughts thinking of all the ways he just facilitated my wife's self-destruction, and how he disregarded and disrespected me with barely a thought. I have violent ideation towards him almost daily. I've never felt this kind of spite and hatred towards a person. It twists me inside to think he walks away with barely an effect to his life. He was single, didn't really put anything on the line for the affair. Does anyone else suffer these same kind of thoughts? Really struggled today, the thoughts just ran riot all day. Update. Casual questions from partner making me think hard. 6 months out from both D-Days, and my wife asked me, do I feel loved? My honest feeling was that I don't. I logically know she must love me, but I don't feel loved. I don't even know what that feeling is when I think about it. I always focus more on how I feel about my partner, always have in every relationship. The question made me think hard about my own ability to believe someone would love me. Less to do with the affair, but just I think I've always had that lack of understanding of feeling loved in a relationship. Then just today, she asked me, do I know how attractive she finds me? Again, of course logically I know she does. But after the affair it's like there's a block about being able to believe that. The question made me identify that major insecurity now. That I just don't believe she finds me attractive, either physically, or as a person. I hope that feeling comes back. Anyway, just some thoughts that I wondered if anyone can relate. Update. Is some kind of revenge the answer for AP? Would that help her at all? He slept with my wife twice in our bed. One of those times my young 5-year-old daughter was asleep in the next room. Not to mention the 9 months of quite regular, fairly dirty sex in which porn-style acts were shared between them. Ejaculated on her body, in her mouth. He knew she was married with a kid. He even knew me vaguely from years ago. Words aren't enough to make me feel like I gave him enough for that. I hate him deeply. Words can't inflict the hurt I want him to feel. The hurt I feel he deserves. Yes, my wife is equal parts to blame, but I've already seen her remorse and massive effort to atone. I've seen the pain she has gone through, and the anger and contempt I've shown her actions. I see the guilt she feels every day. But him? He walks away feeling a bit bad about himself, and probably chalks it off to the experience he had with the wild married MILF that time. A story for his buddies in years to come. The law of nature that courses through my veins tells me to inflict some revenge somehow. How can I ever feel like a man again without doing something? How could I ever feel comfortable again with my wife? I'm really struggling with this. Can anyone help me? How does he not deserve for me to do something? Update. Trying to get in touch with the feeling of how shit I was. So I wonder, does anyone else have this same problem due to compartmentalizing? I know all the shit things I did. I have felt that inside, deeply and truly. However, it's like those feelings and the reality of what I did just hides away, so I don't really feel it. Can anyone help with staying with the reality of what I've done? I feel like my mind just compartmentalizes the negative feelings so I don't need to assimilate them into my life and process them. Just buried down where I buried all the cheating I did. Update. What are the feelings having been cheated on with sex workers? I am a WP. For years I had intermittent visits to sex workers. I know how horrendous this is. I'm not looking for any sympathy. I'm just looking for insight, perspectives, and understanding on what effect that can have. Specifically been cheated on in that way. I do have my BP perspectives, but trying to gain more understanding broadly. I am in R 7 months from D-Day, trying to understand and feel as much as I can about what I did. Update. Has anyone found that in the end they just didn't love their partner after infidelity? Curious from any perspective, after a long time, when all the dust settles, and R is being attempted after 1+ years from D-Day, has the betrayal just destroyed the love? This is something that worries me as a BP and WP, that even though there might be full dedication from both sides, that the betrayal just eroded the relationship too much. I worry the damage is irreversible to the point of not being able to heal. Any thoughts on this? Can anyone relate or share their experience? Update. Still feeling so angry towards the AP. Anyone else have that? I know my partner is mostly who I should be thinking about, and she is. But I've gone through all the anger at her. I've reached empathy and understanding. I know the why, I just don't feel that towards her anymore. Yes, resentment still simmers from time to time, but mostly I just want to heal. And I'm enjoying how our relationship is developing now with so much more truth and honesty since D-Day 8 months ago. However, my anger since about 3 months ago just rises for AP. I think of the decisions he made and still fantasize about revenge. I don't buy that they are blameless, or that it's like blaming an earthquake for the damage it causes. He is an individual with free will that knowingly fucked me over. How logically is an AP blameless? It makes no sense. Also, just because I put blame on him does not mean I make my partner blameless. Far from it. I've just worked through a lot of my difficult emotions. But I love my partner. I have good reason to understand her, and the issues she had that lead her to those decisions. The AP, what motivation do I have to understand and empathize with his shitty decisions? None. He is just a random piece of shit that knowingly fucked me over. He has zero credit in the bank with me. I know forgiveness is for me, not him, but no matter what way I cut it, no matter what mood or mental place I'm in, I feel strongly justified in serving him up some vengeance. I have literally never felt at any point that he does not deserve some form of retribution from me. I'm struggling with this. The best I've moved forward with it is that at some moments I genuinely pity him. He is truly a pathetic loser to do what he did, but often I find myself just despising him and wishing horrific events upon him. Thoughts welcomed. Update. Spouse dealing with a lot of repressed hurt and anger. My spouse seems to be dealing with a lot of repressed anger and hurt about my infidelity. They find it hard to express it. Does anyone have any advice, practical or otherwise, so that I could help with that? Update. Is there ever a point it doesn't hurt anymore? 8 months from D-Day, and I have much more control on my emotions. But duck me, it still hurts and makes me insecure in the relationship. I just wonder, is there ever a point that the affair doesn't hurt or affect the relationship? It's still in my mind often, like most of the time that I'm not busy with something else, and a lot of the time I'm actually with my wife. I don't bring it up half as much and go days now without talking about it, but it's still in my mind the majority of the time. Does this ever stop? Update. What are your feelings about contacting the AP? It's been 8 months since D-Day. I went to speak to him after a month. At that stage I was still reeling and just wanted his side of the story, to make sure it matched with what my wife told me, and it did. In fact, it was clear she had told me way more than he expected. So I was glad my calm, disdainful treatment of him got me what I needed. Some sense that my wife was telling me the truth. About 4 months after D-Day, deep feelings of hatred started to stir in me towards him, thinking of specific things he had done, and realizing all the ways he was a cowardly little shitbag. I've gone through desire for extreme violence towards him, but thankfully that has passed somewhat. It's just not worth the risk to my family. They don't need me in prison. At this point I do still ruminate about what I'd like him to know. I want him to know how much of a little weasel I know he really is. How derelict he truly is for the things he did, and the choices he made that put my family at risk. I'm considering a message, outlining what a complete piece of shit he is, and why. And also warning him, if he ever contacts or comes near my family again, there will be consequences. Is this pointless? I just feel I have so much to get off my chest. It must be noted that I do not think my WS is blameless. I blame her more for the affair. However, I have expressed what I need to her. Has anyone sent any long message like that to an AP, getting everything off their chest? Has it helped you move on and continue with our thoughts? Appreciated. Update. Anyone struggle with feeling insecure, not good enough, or competitive in regards to AP? Help. So this has actually nothing to do with anything my WSBS has done since D-Day. They really have done a lot to reassure me, and there has been zero evidence that the AP was anything important to them. The AP was 100% dropped. However, I doubt the level of attraction and appreciation I'm told was towards the AP during the affair. He is involved in organizing performance events, and during the affair my WSBS seemed to try show she was really into this particular interest on social media, and attended lots of events he was involved in organizing. She even planned a tattoo design involving him and this interest. After D-Day she explained that she thinks all of that was just part of trying to get attention from him, and that she doesn't actually find any of it meaningful. She also says that it was a way to feel less guilty, to make it something more special than it actually was, when in reality he was just seeking shallow validation. Anyway, I can believe this to an extent, but often feel like she was just choosing a better, more exciting option than me. I'm feeling pressure to be more. I work and provide for my family, so I don't have much time for my interests outside of that. It has made me feel a bit boring, and like maybe she wanted more than me. Maybe it's my own insecurities just highlighted by all this, I don't know. Maybe I do want to pursue other interests more, regardless of the AP or affair. Anyway, it makes me anxious and is getting in the way of our. Anyone have experience of this? Or anything that helps? Update. What are the signs things are healing? What are the signs in your situation? So it is over 8 months from D-Day. The rage is pretty much gone towards my WSBS. I only feel rage towards AP, which is also starting to come more under control. Things become tense at times, but we still talk a lot with each other and check in. There is major self-reflection going on from both sides. I mostly just feel empathy for my wife. I accept she made awful choices, and I really do understand where those choices came from. Sexual jealousy and insecurity from comparing myself to AP still happens. Even though objectively I shouldn't really have anything to be worried about from pretty much any way to look at it. My mind still has an enormous capacity to imagine the absolute worst-case scenario in regards to the affair, and I do still need the same reassurances, although less frequently. I feel like things are better, and more often and for longer periods I can genuinely feel love and feel safe with my partner again. It is still followed by periods of a bit of panic and insecurity, but certainly not as strong. There is a long way to go, but it feels better. Compared to this time 7 months ago, I just feel far more like myself. Anyway, my question is for anyone. What do you think the signs of healing are? Where are you in your healing? Update. Sex addiction and peer-to-peer sexual abuse. I'm currently trying to figure out why I visited sex workers. I experienced some sexual abuse from a cousin that was slightly older than me in my early teens. I wasn't forced into anything but felt pressured into sex acts that I didn't want to do, and felt massive shame about. I never needed sex workers in terms of being able to attract a sexual partner, and doing it always felt compulsive, and not really driven by sexual need. I started when I was 19, while on holiday with a friend in the name of youthful experimentation, but something about trying it that first time never left my mind. It became a secret obsession and compulsion. It was in my marriage of the last 10 years that the behavior went more out of control and frequent during certain periods. I think due to living somewhere with easy availability. I really did not have control, I feel, looking back. I didn't do it that often for the first few years, but it gradually became more often, but by no means a regular occurrence. I always felt regret and shame after, just feeling completely wrong and confused. I kept the behavior secret through multiple relationships over the course of about 20 years. Just recently, through infidelity on my wife's side, I admitted to everything in the name of building a base of truth in our marriage. It was a relief to tell somebody after literally decades of that secret compartmentalized behavior. I have realized I was a sex addict. There is so much not included here, but it is the basic outline. I'm wondering, can anyone give me some insight to how the sexual abuse could cause me to have engaged in that behavior, or give me guidance of something to read online? I always felt the shame was just a continuation of the shame I'd never processed as a child. It's hard to pick it apart in my head. Thanks for any guidance or input in advance. It is appreciated. Update. What exactly is validation to you? I read often about WS needing validation. It is the main reason my wife had a full affair. She wanted to feel wanted and desired, as it made her feel validated. I'm curious, what exactly does that mean to you? I'm not sure I actually understand clearly what it means in the context of an affair. Update. Is obsessing about the AP just a form of self-blame? I had the realization recently that feeling emasculated from the affair was just a form of self-blame. It was a belief that there must be something about me that wasn't good enough, that I am somehow lacking in some department. I can see now that was just blaming myself for the affair, which was enlightening and really helped me move on from that feeling. I'm seeing now that maybe the relentless thinking about the AP could be part of the same thing. The constant comparisons and analyzing them is just part of wondering, why the hell did they choose this person? Why did they choose them over me? I feel like I'm trying to find the thing about them that made my wife go for them. But it all leads back to the same thing. Me feeling like there must be something I don't offer, essentially feeling like it is my fault. It is helpful realizing this because I know it's not my fault. But I have been thinking so much about AP, and not really knowing why I was obsessing over them. Does anyone else relate to that or have any more insight? Update. For those that were involved or suffered from a long-term affair, was there any particular action that has been difficult to get past? For BS or WS, was there any particular moment or action that has proved difficult to get past? 9 months post-E-Day. I'm asking because out of the 9-month affair of my wife, in particular her taking AP into our home on 2 occasions for sex in our bed, once while my young daughter slept in the next room, still feels like a knife in my heart. It's around the anniversary of one of those times, and I still feel deeply hurt to the point of feeling like I will never heal when I think of that. It twists me so much emotionally that I feel like my insides are being squashed. Everything else I have made progress with in terms of moving forward. But this I still feel just blind hurt when I think about it. It's not even the sex, it's the direct violation of our family and marriage space. As a WS myself, I can comprehend most of the affair and understand why and how, but this I really can't even begin to imagine the mindset to seek this to happen. It frightens me and is the only thing that makes me worried that I truly don't know my wife. It leaves me still feeling desperately insecure and anxious if I think of it. Does anyone else have specific things like this they find difficult to process? What has helped? Update. Random high adrenaline morning out of nowhere after intense dream. It's been 9 months and I have been sleeping as normal for months. I'd gone through a period around 4 months ago of starting to absolutely hate the AP and had ideation of extreme violence towards him. Thankfully that had begun to subside a few weeks ago, and although I do still feel hate for him, ultimately that thought doesn't hijack my mind anymore. In short, the last month I've felt much more in control of my emotions overall, without any overt anger or rage towards WP or the AP. However, this morning something happened that hasn't happened for a long time. Not since about 6 months ago. I woke up really early after having a dream about my wife going to see AP, and I followed in the car. Just as they met at a cafe, my wife spotted me hiding and I came out and confronted AP about to attack him. The rage and adrenaline woke me up, and that's the energy I started my day with at about 6 a.m. Haven't felt that rage and anxiety in ages, and it took me right back to the early days after D-Day. I went to another room, shouted, and punched a pillow, and then went for a run to just let off steam. Feeling a bit better now. My wife picked up my tense energy as she was waking up. I know she knows something was up, but there's just no point sharing about it when that mood has descended on me. Anyone else have those random road bumps after having a relatively smooth time for a while? Fucking hell though, I'm glad not to be feeling that 24/7 anymore, which I did for about 4 months solid. Update. I'm emotionally exhausted. I need to cry, but it won't come out. It's 9 months since D-Day, and I haven't released all the emotions of the relentless struggle I've been going through in about 5 or 6 months. Things have been going well recently, but today was just awful. I feel like I really need to just cry to release all the stress this has put on me, all the emotional pain, all the guilt, all the things that have been thrown into disarray, all the relentless effort of trying to hold myself together, all the anger and rage that bubbles up. I'm just fucking wrecked and I need to cry. Any tips? Update. For anyone with a sex addict WP, what reasons have you been given? I have really struggled as a WP to figure out why exactly I was doing what I did, but I had a breakthrough moment in my understanding. It is very welcome as my BP was still not clear fully why I did what I did. I just had a conversation with my spouse about how I felt comfort and accepted when visiting sex workers. Because there was no space in my life to engage with the sexual abuse and shame of my past, I identified with sex workers as victims, and felt comforted that they accepted my shameful behavior. Even though of course they did, I was paying them. It was twisted thinking, and the comfort was very short-lived. I didn't actually get to deal with the abuse and shame of my past. It was merely just a space in my life that allowed me to engage with it in an unhealthy way, and momentarily feel accepted. I wasn't aware of any of this consciously at the time, but it has been a bit of a revelation to realize it now. Now that my spouse knows everything, and I have a healthy space in which I actually address the sexual abuse from my past. I don't have the urge at all to seek it in the unhealthy way that I did previously. I was totally addicted to that feeling of acceptance and comfort. I know this does not excuse any of my behavior, and I was still unbelievably selfish and self-oriented. But it is a major relief to be able to finally give my spouse something more concrete that helps her make sense of what I did. I'm curious if any other sex addicts in this sub have gained understanding of their behavior. or what kind of explanations you have been given. Update. Gaining understanding. Anyone else understand why they are an addict? I have really struggled to figure out why exactly I was doing what I did, but I had a breakthrough moment in my understanding. It is very welcome as my spouse was still not clear fully why I did what I did. I just had a conversation with my spouse about how I felt comfort and accepted when visiting sex workers. Because there was no space in my life to engage with the sexual abuse and shame of my past, I identified with sex workers as victims, and felt comforted that they accepted my shameful behavior. Even though of course they did, I was paying them. It was twisted thinking, and the comfort was very short-lived. I didn't actually get to deal with the abuse and shame of my past. It was merely just a space in my life that allowed me to engage with it in an unhealthy way, and momentarily feel accepted. I wasn't aware of any of this consciously at the time, but it has been a bit of a revelation to realize it now. Now that my spouse knows everything, and I have a healthy space in which I actually address the sexual abuse from my past, I don't have the urge at all to seek it in the unhealthy way that I did previously. I was totally addicted to that feeling of acceptance and comfort. I know this does not excuse any of my behavior, and I was still unbelievably selfish and self-oriented. But it is a major relief to be able to finally give my spouse something more concrete that helps her make sense of what I did. I'm curious if any other sex addicts in this sub have gained understanding of their behavior in this way. Update. I actually don't want to care about it anymore. I want to move on. At this point, just over 9 months after D-Day, I don't want to think about the affair anymore. I don't want to think about the AP, I don't want to think about any of it. I'm fucking done with it. I'm sick of it being in my mind. For a long time I felt quite a strong desire to understand as much as I could, and had a strong desire to dig into my feelings about it, and I wanted to express all the pain. But now, just recently, I'm just sick of all of it. I still get intrusive thoughts about the affair that trigger strong emotions, but I no longer want to go through it. It's not a feeling of hurt, it's more like frustration, like still the same old shit. I'm not saying I don't want to or I do. I'm just sick and tired of it going through my head at this point. I'm not distraught or anything. I really might move to a weekly scheduled check-in. I don't know. Anyone else ever feel like this? What does it mean? Update. Difficult week, previous feelings and resentment bubbling up, terrified of letting go and having to trust. Anyone relate? Edit. Predictive text mistake in title, should be week not week. So our baby is due within weeks, looking at symptoms, probably this week. Yes, it's definitely mine. The imminent baby is bringing things to a head in my mind. It's 10 months since D-Day, so I've gone through a lot emotionally, and processed a lot in my mind. It has been mostly an upward trajectory in terms of of course there have been bad days and moments, but overall the healing has been good. And both of us as WPs have tried to help each other, and give each other what we need to heal. I have to say she has been great since D-Day in terms of trying to do what I need, and trying to show she is dedicated and loves me. We understand each other better than ever and are more connected than ever. If you had have asked me a couple of days after D-Day if we could get to this point, I would have said no way. But here we are. However, this week my mind has been going back into affair details, the AP, and specific hurtful things that happened. No anger or rage outwardly, but plenty of resentment festering. I've mostly avoided my partner in terms of intimacy and closeness for a few days, and I haven't been able to connect or feel close to her. Resentment and hurtful mind movies have dominated my thoughts. This is not ideal so late in pregnancy and challenging and confusing for my partner. I think it's that I'm terrified that I'll need to give a large degree of trust over by having another child with her. I feel like my mind is reacting and protecting itself, refusing to give in and let go. I want this child with her. I want to move forward and grow our lovely family. but there's something inside that's turning to the resentment and pulling away. I feel like I'm at a crossroads, and I'll need to let go and start to trust again, and start to stop thinking about what happened so much. Has anyone had a similar realization, or an event that triggered the realization that it's time to start moving on and trust again? Any input welcome. Update. Not a particularly heavy one, but does anyone else struggle with engaging with music, movies, books, etc., since infidelity? I find I really struggle with all these things, as they engage my emotions, some of which I just can't handle. Engaging with anything creative often just fills me with a deep sadness, as I used to always associate my partner in those things. Now often I just seem to associate those things with her and the AP. Obviously anything to do with love or relationships are particularly difficult, but even other themes seem stained to me. It's gotten a bit better after almost 10 months, but I'm just not as free in myself anymore to enjoy those things. I really hate that. Update. Frequently needing reassurance about the same things over and over. Anyone else have this? How long does it last? D-Day was 10 months ago, and I still frequently need reassurance around the reasons why the affair happened. That it wasn't because of me. That the sex wasn't incredible or the reason for the affair. That AP wasn't better than me. That there wasn't that much feeling, it was all for validation and feeling wanted. AP wasn't important as an individual, etc. My partner has been able to do that, and has been pretty good about offering that when I need it. However, it's like my paranoid and insecure mind keeps constructing its own version of things again and again, and I need to hear the same things over and over. To my partner it just sounds like I don't believe her, as she has said consistently the same things, just with more depth and understanding, which makes it more convincing each time. My mind still creates its own narrative though. It sort of feels like an automatic defensive and protective reaction. My partner does want to help, but it does stress her at times as it comes across like I haven't listened to what she has said before. And also she obviously doesn't enjoy having to think about the affair and go to that head space, as she just feels guilty, which is a WP2. I understand. It's not a major source of conflict, but occasionally leads to tension. I would love if she just reassured me without being prompted from time to time though. Or just out of the blue reminded me of some reassuring facts about the affair. She does know the things I'm mostly insecure about, so she could address them unprompted. Having to ask all the time creates its own doubt in my mind. I understand she doesn't naturally want to talk about that, but her words are so helpful. I know it's the truth when I hear it from her. I just seem to keep hearing it repeated. Does anyone else have similar? How long does that go on for? Overall things are going well for both of us. Update. Anyone else need to keep being reminded over and over of the same things for assurance and comfort? Found a helpful approach that works for us at the moment. Nearly 11 months since D-Day, and ours is going well. Of course there are still very challenging thoughts and emotions here and there. One of the challenges was me constantly needing reassurance and reminders of things about the affair that keep me grounded in the truth, and not the worst-case scenario that my mind seems to inevitably twist things into. The problem with this was I kept asking about the same things, and even though I was getting the same answers, it was starting to sound like I didn't believe my partner's answers, which made it disheartening for her. I always wanted her to just come out with comforting comments or information unprompted, but she never did, as naturally she didn't enjoy thinking about the affair. She'd just be overcome with guilt and remorse. I only actually voiced this request once, as I didn't want it to be forced, so she didn't realize I really wanted that. Just recently, after another strained discussion with me looking for reassurance and her thinking I was just making her out to be a liar, I decided to ask her to send me a message every few days reminding me of some truths and reassurances about the affair. Each time it can be about any aspect of the affair she knows in the past I struggled with. It has been really healing, and I really look forward to reading them each time. I don't know if it's just because it's the right time in my healing journey, but it has been a revelation for me. Reading unprompted explanations of things and reminders of assurances about the affair and our relationship has calmed me down so much. It has been unbelievably comforting to just get that kind of information without hunting for it. I think it has been good for my wife too, to be able to outline things in a space she doesn't feel under pressure. If you have similar issues as a betrayed or wayward, I would recommend it. Update. Reconciliation going well, but I have identified a problem. Haunted by thoughts of the affair. Sex advice needed. So ours has been going well, almost at 11 months now. We were having a lot of sex, which was great. Both of us had been wayward, so it was really bonding. We've had a break from sex for about 6 weeks as we had a baby. I missed the sex, but actually I realized when we went back to it I found the closeness of it triggering. And I realized how much pressure I'd been putting on myself during sex to be better than AP. None of that fueled by my partner, by the way. She has told me countless times there is no comparison. But somewhere in my mind I was still thinking of the affair sex during our sex for small moments. Not all the time, but enough for it to be toxic and not healthy for me. Often after being close, sexual jealousy would eventually bubble into frustration. I've now realized that whenever I see anything related to sex in movies, books, social media, podcasts, etc., I always relate things to the affair sex and relate any sex to my wife and the AP. I used to just relate it to us. I've realized I'm deeply scarred by what I know about the sex between them. Despite my wife assuring me it wasn't great, it still haunts me. Does anyone have any advice about this, and would help them heal from that kind of hurt? It has really fucked up my sex life with my wife, and I don't want to think of the AP banging my wife anymore. She has repeatedly told me that I'm better, and I believe her, but my mind just keeps playing hurtful mind movies. Update. How believable is this? My gut just keeps telling me otherwise. My wife had a 9-month affair. She says the sex was only okay, but I don't believe this. She says that in hindsight she was just doing it for feeling wanted, attractive, and validated. I can understand this, but I also feel that she is not telling the truth about the sex. I think she is just trying to spare my feelings and make it more digestible for me. It's been 11 months, but I'm not convinced at all that the sex wasn't great because of the length of the affair. In truth, sex was the main thing that they did together too, so I don't believe her when she says it wasn't good and only okay. I think her feeling wanted and attractive mixed with the excitement of having an affair would have made it good, if not much more than that. She would meet him late at night, go round to his place for sex, and also during the day about every 2 weeks. They barely did anything else. A few times they ate together, or had a brief drink, but it's clear that sex was what they were meeting up for. I know that for women sex isn't necessarily the most important thing, but they had a lot of sex. It wasn't really boring sex either, and she was trying to please him. Insight into this would be welcomed, and I'm really not looking to be comforted here. I just want cold truth. Update. Massive spiral. I'm losing it. Feel like I can't do this. My brain has gone into overdrive. I haven't felt like this in months. Properly raged at my partner last night. Hurled abuse. Some slight physical intimidation for a second, but not actually physical violence. It scared my partner though. The verbal abuse was vicious and nasty. I properly lost it. I thought things were going well. Now I feel like it's fallen apart and I haven't healed at all. I don't want it to be like this. I just want it all to stop. I just felt hopeless today. My mind has gone through almost all my specific worries, issues, and heard about the affair at total rapid fire speed. Tried to text my partner to apologize. Ended up kind of angry again, pointing out specific things she did. I'm truly sorry to her that I can't handle this. I feel like I'm not able. She has tried really hard, but I'm just not healing. I thought I was, but now I think I was just fooling myself. It almost feels like D-Day again, except nothing new has happened. I've just completely blown up. WTF, I need help. Update. What is this frame of mind I'm in now? Where does it lead? So quite suddenly, 11 months after D-Day, I have decided I currently can't handle the hurt, pain, anger, fear, and insecurity that the affair has brought, in all its many ways. I've realized that trying to be close to my partner and engage emotionally was always bringing me back to a place that my mind was screaming that they're not safe. I just can't engage with all those emotions anymore. I don't have the mental energy to try accept the things that happened. My mind just can't get past those things. My mind just keeps rejecting any form of acceptance that builds up. I'm really tired of it. Right now I've just decided that I don't accept any of it, because I've realized I don't think I can. Sometimes things are just broken. I don't feel my partner is safe to be emotionally or physically close to, and I can't make my mind think otherwise. That's just the natural reaction to what happened. For the last 2 days I've just kept my distance emotionally, because I don't want those negative feelings anymore. I don't know what this is, I just know I've had enough, and I need to focus on my mental well-being and my children. There's a point you just can't handle the pain anymore. I need to escape it. Update. Is it healthy to keep wanting your partner to remind you the AP wasn't worth that hit and that you are better than the? I believe my partner at this point. The clarity and understanding A has now of what she was doing is getting better all the time. I still want to hear it regularly though, that I'm better, and the AP was shit. Not exactly like that, but pretty much that general message in different ways, and addressing different aspects of the affair. It feels good, but I wonder if it's healthy. Currently 11 months out from D-Day. Update. Should I tell the other former partner? Not the usual situation. So 2 years ago now, my wife started communicating and trying to get the attention of the AP. He works in nightlife, so she would go to his place of work and also chat a bit with him online. She told me, in hindsight, she could see he was interested and couldn't resist the need for validation. Eventually, 3 months later, after sort of flirting and build up a bit in person and a bit online, their EA and PA began and lasted for 9 months before I discovered it a year ago. Straightforward, except that when they first started communicating, he was seeing somebody else. It was on the rocks, and my wife essentially became a rebound for him in a way. My wife says things were finished between AP and his girlfriend just before they started the PA. Just recently I was thinking how it may have ended because communication started between AP and my wife. It might have been the catalyst for the AP and his girlfriend to break up. Although nothing physical may have happened while AP was with his girlfriend, for sure micro-cheating was taking place. It's almost 2 years ago now. Is it too long ago? For sure she has moved on from that relationship, and it's just creating drama. If it was me, I'd want to know that my ex had started cheating on me just before we finished. Update. Where am I at? 1 year out. Almost 1 year, and it's still up and down. It'll be a year in 1 week. Where are we in the journey? I have no idea. Definitely somewhere along the line, but not healed. Like many say, many days I feel great and things are better than ever before between us. Some days there are challenging thoughts and emotions that create tension, and difficult conversations are had. On rare days, I still get thrown right back into massive despair and panicked fight or flight mode from some kind of trigger that makes me spiral into self-defense. On those days, I become angry and say abusive things that I regret. I don't like those days. But those days used to be the many, and the great days were the rare ones. So, I am confident that healing in progress is happening, even if at times I wonder. I'm looking forward to thinking what was happening this time last year, and it not being a memory of a time my wife was having a relationship with another man behind my back. Also, that it's not a memory of a time that I was mentally sick, and also cheating on my wife by paying for sexual services, unable to face the trauma of my past. stuck in a toxic cycle of pain and shame. Is there progress? I don't know how to measure that, but there have been monumental changes, and that's a good thing. They should have happened long ago. Update. Am I right to be annoyed? Minor withholding of information. It's 1 year after D-Day. I was away for 2 weeks visiting family. My partner stayed home and looked after our baby. This was the first time we were apart for a considerable amount of time. So all went smoothly. No paranoia really from either side. We stayed in close contact. When I returned, I asked, did she have any drinks any evening? She said yeah. She drank some wine a few of the nights at home. A couple of glasses. Previously, it would have been normal for her to let me know she's having a glass of wine. She said she didn't tell me because she didn't want me to worry or be triggered. I told her that's the kind of mindset that led to the affair. Thinking it's better I don't know things. It feels like a baby step towards hiding things from me again. I said I think that's selfish of her. She didn't want to deal with me being triggered, not that she didn't want me to worry. Am I right to be annoyed by this? I really don't like the mindset it took to do that. In the end, that makes me more worried. Like, why does she not want me to know about her drinking wine in the evenings when I wasn't there? Was she doing something more? It's really put me on alert. The more I think about it, the more worrying it is for a few reasons.